Bava Metzia Daf Yud Daled continues the Gemara's learning of the sugya of shibudim, of liens, and when you sell land with a lien on it, what halachas you have there are. The Gemara will first speak about the concept of achayis tos sefer, which means that a lien is automatic even if it doesn't say it on a loan document. The Gemara will talk about someone who sells property with a guarantee that he'll replace it if something happens to it, what halachos stem in that situation, a number of halachos related to that. So let's begin. So the Gemara is analyzing our last mission, our last brayso. Over there we saw that the Rabbanan hold that there's no difference between a shtar that says on it that there is a lien on the land to pay off the loan. This is, we're talking about a loan document, the malva lent money to the leiva. And the Rabbanan say it makes no difference if it says in the document that the malva can collect from the leiva's land even if he sells it, meaning that there's a lien on the property, even if the property is sold, the lien sticks on it. There makes no difference if it says that in the shtar or not. Either way, they can still collect from that property even if it's been sold, which is what we call a shibud. Now, why did the Rabbanan hold that way? So Shmuel explains, the Rabbanan hold a concept called achayis tos sefer, which means that a person never makes a loan without insisting on a lien, that the loan should be secured by property and that lien should stick on the property even if it'll be sold. No one ever does that. If you find a shtar that doesn't have it written, it's a mistake. The malva definitely insisted on it, so you don't have to write it, therefore, because it's automatic. Now, this is Shmuel's explanation of the Rabbanan. So Gemara asks, but Shmuel doesn't seem to hold that way. Shmuel says in a different maimer that there are three things which a sefer who's writing a shtar has to ask the parties involved specifically whether he should write it or not, and if they don't say should, then he shouldn't. Those things are what the Gemara calls shevach, shefer, and shibud. That means that if there is a shtar that's being sold as a contract of sale, Reuven is selling his property to Shimon, so before the sefer writes, he should ask, first of all, is Reuven guaranteeing the property? That if Shimon will lose it to a Baal Chayv, to someone who Reuven owed money to, so there's a lien on it. If Shimon loses the property, is Reuven going to replace it? That, first of all, it's not automatic. He has to ask that. That's what we call achayis, really. So that's what we call a shibud. The second thing is that even if Reuven is promising to replace the land, will he replace the investment that Shimon puts into it? Let's say Shimon buys land and he invests into it. Is Reuven going to replace that if the land later gets taken away from him by someone that Reuven owed money to? And the third thing is, even if he's going to replace it, and even if he's going to replace the investment, is he going to pay it with his highest quality land, with his idus? These two things you have to ask, they're not automatic. So you see, Shmuel is saying that it's not automatic that the seller is guaranteeing to replace it if the lien gets actualized and the buyer loses the land. So how could you tell me that the guarantee is automatic? Here the guarantee is not automatic. It's not automatic that Reuven is guaranteeing a sale. So does that mean to say that there's two different versions of what Shmuel holds, and the one who says one doesn't hold the other one? Someone says no, it's not a contradiction. A guarantee in a loan you have to have. A guarantee in a sale you don't have to have. The reason is because if you're lending money to someone, you want to be guaranteed you're going to get paid back. No one's foolish enough to lend. You get nothing out of it if you lend money without a security. There's got to be a security there. However, that you're securing a sale, the buyer doesn't necessarily demand a security on the sale. Sometimes the buyer is willing to take the risk. Sometimes it's worth it for him to buy property, even if he may lose it. It's worth it for him to have it for the whatever time that he'll have it. And therefore, there is no automatic security, and that's why you have to ask. So Gemara says, this you can see in an incident that happened. There was a incident that happened with the father of Bar-Ihi who bought an attic from his brother, and someone who the brother owed money to came and took the land away. There was a lien on that attic, and he ended up losing it. Bar-Ihi's father ended up losing it. So he went to Shmuel, went to Mar Shmuel. The Gemara says to ask, can I get my sale price back? Can I get back the money that I paid for it? So Shmuel asked him, do you have a shtar that has a guarantee written on it that it'll be replaced? Is there a chayas? And he said no. So he said, if so, go in peace. There's nothing you can do. If you don't have a written document of guarantee to replace it, you can't retrieve that money. So I asked him, but you're the one who says that a chayas tells a sefer. The guarantee is a mistake. It doesn't have to be written. He said, that's only on a loan. But on a document of sale, the guarantee is not automatic because people sometimes buy land without a guarantee. Now the Gemara introduces more halachas on the subject of this guarantee of the buyer to the seller of the land. So Abaye says, first halacha is Reuven that sells land to Shimon with the guarantee that he'll replace it if Shimon loses it to someone that Reuven owes money to. And now the lien holder, that is the Malva who lent money to, Reuven comes to take the land. So of course he has to go to Shimon because Reuven doesn't have any money. So he's taking the land, he's claiming to take the land away from Shimon to collect on his lien, and Reuven wants to get involved in the court case. So the Malva says, what are you doing here? This is between me and Shimon. You're not involved. I want to take the land away from Shimon. What does it have to do with you? So there's two versions of what Abai said. According to the first version, Abai said, if Reuven is guaranteeing to refund the sale price to Shimon if he loses his land, then Reuven can certainly get involved because Reuven's going to lose the money if Shimon loses the land. According to the second version, even if Reuven did not guarantee the sale and he's not going to lose any money, he could still get involved. Because if Shimon loses the land to the Malva, Shimon's going to have a lot of tainas on Reuven. And Reuven can say, I don't want him to have tainas on me, and therefore it's my business to mix in and try to make sure that Shimon doesn't lose the land that I sold him. Next case Abai says is, what if Reuven sells land to Shimon, and as soon as the sale is made, people start coming and complaining that it never really belonged to Reuven, the sale is invalid, it was really their land. Now, they haven't brought any proof, at least not yet, but there's noise. So Shimon gets nervous and he wants to pull out of the deal. Does Shimon have a right to cancel the deal? So Rashi says we're talking about where he didn't pay any money yet, and he wants to avoid having to pay. He wants to say, forget it, I'm out. So Abaye says it depends if he made a chazaka or not. If he did a chazaka, then he's kind of it. Even if he didn't pay money and he can't back out of the deal, he now has to pay the money for the land. He can't say he's getting nervous because there's rumors here. Of course, if he'll actually lose the land, then it'll depend if he has a chayes or not. Now, says the Gemara further, some want to take this halacha of Abayis even further. Let's say Reuven guaranteed the land. So Shimon says, okay, listen, I'm collecting on my guarantee. I'm getting nervous. You're right, I can't back out of the deal, but you guaranteed to replace it if something happens. So it sounds like something's happening here. I want you to replace it for me, meaning I want my money back. So the Gemara says, according to this version, the Shimon can't say that, because Reuven could say, when I said I'll replace it for you, I meant if it gets taken away. It hasn't been taken away yet. I'm going through with the sale. When something, taka, happens and you lose the land, then you could come complaining to me, and then that's when I promise to replace for you. Okay, the rest of the daf speaks about a case where Reuven sold property to Shimon, and it turns out that Reuven was a thief. Reuven had stolen the property, was not his for sure. So Shimon loses the land to the rightful owner. Now, Shimon bought something that he doesn't have anymore, so he goes back to Reuven and says, I want a refund. You sold me something and it wasn't yours. You have to refund the money that I paid you. So he definitely has to refund it. What happens here is that Shimon goes a step further, and Shimon says, listen, I invested money in the land, right? I paid you $1,000 for the land that you have to repay, that you have to refund for sure. But I also planted the land, and now it's a planted land. I spent $100 in seed. So I want you to refund me for my investment into the land, which now I'm going to lose because of you. So does he have a right to do that or not? So Gemara quotes some machlekes between Rav and Shmuel. Rav says he does collect that. Shmuel says he does not collect that money. The Gemara is going to focus on Shmuel. Why does Shmuel say he doesn't collect that? The Gemara has two potential explanations. One explanation is because he doesn't have a guarantee on that. He never guaranteed, that is, Reuven never guaranteed the investment that Shimon puts into it. So if the land is lost, he only has to pay him for the land, which he guaranteed. For the investment that Shimon put in, he never guaranteed he doesn't have to pay. That would mean that had the bill of sale actually held a guarantee of even the investment, then he would have to pay. That's one explanation. The other explanation the Gemara considers is that it's actually ribis, because since the land never belonged to Reuven, there was never a sale of land. It was a joke. It looked like it was, but it was nothing. What really happened was that Shimon gave money to Reuven in the air, not connected to any land, and now he's taking his money back. So if he gave him $1,000 for the land, which was not really for the land, and now he's taking his money back and he's going to get more back, he'll get $1,100 for the land and for the investment, then he gave $1,000, he's getting back $1,100. Looks like ribis. Of course, it's not ribis deraisa, but it has the appearance of ribis because the land is irrelevant to this entire discussion. It's as if it wasn't there because it never belonged to Reuven and it certainly never belonged to Shimon. If that's the case, then even if the bill of sale specified that he's guaranteeing the investment that Shimon put in, he still can't pay him for it because it appears to be ribis. So the Gemara says, what's Pshat and Shmuel? Was a question that was asked to Rav Huna, And Rav Huna said he didn't know. He said he was yes, no, he wasn't sure. However, it was asked afterwards. Rav Nachman said over in the name of Shmuel that he still can't collect it, even if the shtar specifies that he's guaranteeing the investment. Shimon doesn't get his investment back because it does appear to be ribis. So now the Gemara's kasha is on this halacha that Rav Nachman says. So the Gemara says that Rava asked the kasha to Rav Nachman from a brisa. The brisa says there are certain situations in which you cannot collect a lien from property that has been sold. The implication is that you could collect it from property as long as it has not been sold. What are these things that you can't collect? So the brisa says you can't collect eating fruits. Tomorrow I'll explain later what that means. You can't collect investment in land. That's obviously what we're referring to. You can't collect support for one's wife and support for one's children. Now, the reason you can't collect from sold property is because everyone has these obligations, or at least the support for the wife and the children, everyone has, the daughters, everyone owes that. So if you could take money to pay that away from someone who bought land, no one's going to be willing to buy land from anybody, because the person you're buying the land from may one day have to feed his wife and his kids, or he may die and someone will also have to feed their wife and kids from his estate and take the property away from you. So there's no way to be secure in land that you buy. So as a tikkun ha'olam, they said that you can't collect that from land that has been sold. As far as fruits and as far as investment, there's no limit there. That's why you can't collect from that. It's a davar she'ein lo kitzva. So the point of here is that we see that you could collect investment in land from other lands that the person has. So you see that you do have to pay for the value of the investment. Now, it says the Gemara, Pashas we're talking about where the land was stolen and sold, and the buyer invested in it. So the Gemara, no, we're just talking about where somebody borrowed money, and the lender is collecting his loan. So Gemara says, no, that can't be the case. Because look at the ratio. We mentioned fruits, eating fruits. If you're talking about a person who lent money and he's trying to collect his loan, so he could take the land away, that's true, but he could take away the fruits from the land. You can't take away fruits from the land. Shmuel says the halacha, a lender can only collect the land and the investment in the land. He could take the investment value of the land, but he can't take fully grown fruits in the land because it's not part of the land. It's considered to be separate from the land. Therefore, the only way that case of the fruits makes any sense is if you're talking about where somebody stole land, sold it, and there were fruits on the land and there was investment in the land. And the buyer, not only did he invest in the land, he paid for the fruits, and therefore he wants to get his money back for that. So on that, you could collect, but not from sold property, because it's a davar she'ein lo kitzva. Therefore, we have to be referring to a case of stolen land that got sold, and therefore you do see that stolen land that got sold. You could collect the investment that the buyer put into it. Someone says, no, not necessarily. The two separate cases happening here. The fruits is, like you said, it's talking about stolen land that's been sold, and the buyer wants to collect his refund. The case of the shevach, that's talking about a loan, where somebody bought land and he lost it to a lender, and now he wants to get his investment back for that. But we're not talking about anything that has to do with a theft. Says the Gemara, no, I'm not maskim. I think it's talking about a case where somebody sold land that was stolen, and the buyer lost it, and now he wants to collect, just like I said before. How do I see that? Because there's a brisa writing on this Mishnah, and that's how the brisa seems to learn the Mishnah. So let's see if we can agree as to how the brisa is meant to be read. The brisa says as follows. Investment in land, how does that work? If somebody stole land from his friend, and the land is being lost, and he needs to pay for the land, so the one who's collecting can collect the value of the land itself from properties that has been sold, and he can collect the investment from properties that are available that have not been sold. So you see clearly you are collecting the land, and we're talking about a case where the properties have been sold. Now, how do you know that we're talking about a case where stolen property was actually sold? Maybe we're talking about where a thief stole it, and you're trying to get your land back from the thief. So we're talking about the thief paying what he had. Maybe the thief invested in it, so he's paying back the land, and he's paying back the investment. So Gemara says that, because that is what the simple reading of the Rashi seems to say. So Gemara says, no, that can't be correct, because the term collecting money from a thief doesn't make sense. You just take your land back. Whatever's on it, whatever it is, whatever happened to it, whatever he stole, it goes back. You don't say you're collecting from him. You don't start talking about what you're collecting and how you're collecting from sold properties, from not sold properties. The whole discussion doesn't make sense. You just take the land back. So it has to be referring to a case where the land was stolen and sold, and the buyer wants to get his refund. That must be what we're referring to. So Gemara says, no, listen, you already said that this is not meant to be understood like the pashtus. So if you're taking it out of the pashtus, just say it's talking about a balchayv. It's talking about if somebody lent money and he sold, and the lender collected land in order to get back his loan, and the buyer wants his money back from the borrower. Now, the Gemara brings another brisa, very similar, and the Gemara wants to bring a similar right from here. The brisa says as follows: what does it mean that you collect fruits? How do you collect fruits on a field? So brisa says, if somebody stole a field, and now the field is leaving from him, it's being returned. So when you collect it, you collect the value of the field itself from sold properties, and the value of the fruits of the field from properties that the person still has. So what's the case? If you're talking about a thief stole it and you're getting it back from the thief, so what are we talking about collecting from other properties, from stolen, from this? You just take your field back. What is there to discuss here? So it must be talking about exactly our case, where Reuven stole a field and he sold it to Shimon, and Shimon lost it to the original owner, and now Shimon wants to get his refund. So it comes to Reuven. Reuven doesn't give him the field back. The field's gone. Reuven has to pay him now. So it says he pays him the value of the field itself, the purchase price he refunds from properties that he sold, and the value of the payros, which must mean, what else could it mean? It must mean the investment that Shimon put into it, that he has to pay from only land that he actually has. But you do see that Reuven does have to pay Shimon for the money that he invested. That's what payros must mean. So Gemara answers two different answers. The Gemara says, no, we're really talking about a thief. The thief stole property, and the happened was the property is no longer available to be returned. And the property is not available to be returned, and the fruits that were growing and are now completed on the field are also not available to be returned. They both have to be paid for, but there's different rules as to how you pay for them. So first of all, why they're not available to be returned? Rava says, because he ate the fruits. The fruits are gone because he ate them, and the property is gone because he ruined it. He made it full of holes. So therefore, he has to pay. And the payment for the fruits comes from only properties that he owns and not that he already sold. The payment for the field itself, that comes even from property that he actually sold. Rabbi Baruch Huna says a similar answer, except instead of saying that he ate the fruits and ruined the property, he says, and Mesikin came, Anusim, people that take other people's land away, Akom, by force, they came and they took it away. And it is the thief's fault that the Anusim here, the Mesikin, were able to come. So he needs, therefore, to pay for the field. He has to pay for the fruits. He has to pay for the land. Different rules. And like we said, the fruits he has to pay from free land, and the value of the land itself he could pay from B'nai Chayr, land that has been sold. Now, says the Gemara, why did Rava and Rabbi Baruch Huna give different answers? So the Gemara says, Rava didn't want to say like Rabba, because it says Harehi Yotzi Mitachas Yadai. That implies that they went to court, and it takes away from him in court. That means that the actual field itself is being returned, it's just ruined, and therefore he has to add money. He needs to pay for it. Now, Rabbi Baruch Huna didn't want to say like Rava, because the phrase Harehi Yotzi Mitachas Yadai sounds like that it was lost by the thief. He lost it to Mesikin, and therefore the field is gone. And that's why he wants to say pshat that he says. Now, Rav Ashi says a compromise kind of explanation here. He says a split in. He says we're referring to where he ate the fruits, and therefore the fruits he lost, but he sold the field, and therefore the field is not coming from him. The field is lost from him. When we say that Yetzi Mitachas Yadai, we mean it was lost from his possession by someone who bought the field. So again, we have the same halachas. He needs to pay for the fruits from property that he owns, and for the field itself even from sold land. Now, the Gemara asks a question on both Rava and Rabbi Baruch Huna. According to both of them, when the Nigzal takes back his land, he could take it even from possessions that were sold by the Gazlan. So the question is, the possessions the the obligation that the Gazlan has to the Nigzal is not a milveh bishtar. It's not written in a contract anywhere. And the halacha, so the obligation is therefore what we would call a milveh al peh. It is a verbal obligation. Now the halacha is that if there's a verbal obligation, the person who's owned money by a verbal agreement or verbally set up situation can't take it away from a lekeach. He cannot take it away from the purchaser of that land. And the reason is because since it was oral, it was not recorded. How is the person who bought the land supposed to know that this happened? How is he supposed to find out that there's a lien on the land that he wants to buy? Where's the title search going to be able to reveal this information? Since he can't, it's not fair for him to lose it. So this situation is just like that. It was stolen land. The person who bought land from the thief how's he supposed to know that he's going to lose the land to the victim of this person's other thief on other land? So the Gemara answers, no, the situation here is that they already went to court. The Nigzal already took the Gazlan to court and he already got a psak that he owes him. That court action creates a call, creates a lot of noise, and people hear about it, and therefore the purchaser must have heard about it. And it's like a milveh bishtar. And he should have therefore known that there's going to be a lien on this because the Nigzal is going to come take his property back. And by buying something from the Gazlan, he put himself at risk that his land would be lost to that arrangement. So the Gemara says if that's true, so then even the fruits of the land that got stolen should be payable from land that got sold. I mean, he bought land, and he should know that he was going to lose it both for the land and for the stolen fruits that were on the land. Why is the halacha that the land you can only take away from the Gazlan's free property and not from property that he had sold? So the Gemara answers, we're talking about where there was a psak din on the land, and there was no psak din on the fruits. And therefore the fruits is not known that there was stolen fruit. So the compensation for that, you can't take away from the purchaser. So the Mishnah says, why would you set it up that way? Why would the Mishnah say a split halacha like that with the assumption that there was a psak din on the land and no psak din on the fruits, and therefore accordingly set up the halachas in the Mishnah that way? What's the reason for that? So the reason is because that's how people usually function. They first lay claim to the land that got stolen for them, then they worry about the fruits that were on the land. And first you get back the ikr, and then you get back the other things. And therefore it makes sense that there was already a claim and already a psak din on the land itself, but there was no claim of psak din on the fruits. And that's why it makes sense that the land itself can be taken from sold property, while the fruits itself can only be taken from free property. What was the only thing he said?
I hear you're in uniform.
Nope.
Thank you to your wife who's making a salad for Shabbos.
Nope. Guess again, you totally...
Why'd you come only now?
Now you're more on track.
Please sit down and at the head table.
Nope. Now you're off track.
I don't know. Sit down and you better stay for the next 5 hours.
Nope.
Okay, I don't know.
Colder.
I guessed 5 times. I'm out.
Okay, you are out. So you don't know. You don't.
I don't know him. I don't claim to know him.
You don't know the chapter.
No.
3 words.
Words shown by you.
Nope.
That's 4 words.
Where's your boys?
Oh, get out of here. Are you serious? Why the whole neighborhood and their boys were sitting there?
Yep. Not the whole neighborhood, but all the boys.
Huh? Well, Yoni would have been happy to go.
Yeah.
Does that mean that we didn't let him come? Can't leave a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old home alone.
If I would have realized that he wanted to go, I would have, last minute. It's too late to be having that conversation when I realized that he wanted to go in advance.
Maybe I should have brought him something. Should have taken something to him.
Right, so take some wedding.
Okay, so that's your job.
Maybe walking out of that wedding with something.
Oh. How about then I would have taken something in?
Well, I would have been at the wedding.
Should I feel bad that we didn't take him? I mean, then I wouldn't have been able to come. I don't care, but I think it was the right thing. So I thought,
I don't think he's going to care. He's not going to miss it. I would have had to stay a lot longer, that's for sure.
No, but then I should have brought him something.
To something and we were in and out and he was all mad.
Oh, no, I don't. But whatever. Sounds good. Sounds right. Shem Yerachim. Can you breathe? It's so hot.
I had to defar the window.
Fine.
You want to drive the guys?
No, I don't, actually. I actually do. I don't want to bother you. It's not Jewish, this area yet, right? Kind of there. Yeah, the school that we're considering for Tehillah next year is somewhere here. Whatever, the Mora for Chaim Chama. The Mora we're considering for Chaim Chama is around here.
So.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. So this commander guy was trying to relate to my life. So he's like, why did you join the military? Did your father serve?
No, if my father would have served, I wouldn't have joined.
Was your family in the military? I was like, no. Not quite. So he wanted to know the names of my kids.
Oh, good luck.
I wrote it down. He was trying to read it.
Did he break his teeth?
Totally broke his teeth.
He's also on the second or third or 20th time?
I didn't ask him.
I thought maybe he volunteered, since they all volunteer apparently.
No, he didn't. Said something about, you know the address?
No, I just know it's on Swadmore. Yeah. Cedar Palace. Oh, I think 1550. No, it's on Swadmore. I think it's 1550.
So he's like, what are you doing here? Civilian life, so he said, all right, whatever, I'm going to teach. Jewish high school. Okay. So, what kind of school do you see your kids do? Oh, yeah, what's the schools?
What'd you say? What kind of school? What's the answer to that?
I don't know exactly. I said it was something to, because we were talking about kids who do active duty. So, how many students are in school? So, elementary schools are very big. Boys' high school is only about 100 kids in school.
Only boys, not girls.
So he said, oh, that's like the way I grew up. I said, really? How did you grow up? He said, I grew up in a little town in Alabama. There were only 600 people in the whole town. 25 kids in school. I said, no. You get that wrong idea, buddy. There's only 100 kids in the school, but there are 62 schools. So there are a couple of thousand kids available.
Did he fall off this year?
Sort of. If it would be a normal town, like your town, there would be 6,000 kids in high school.
Someone's in a rush.
1925. We're going up the numbers, not down. Did you say it was 15 something?
I think, but maybe not. Do I know? The heck would we be going up? This is...
We're going up.
Okay, well then I don't know where we're going.
So, where are we going?
I don't know. Cedar Palace. Put it in your thing.
Cedar Palace is new.
So put in Taurus Menachem. This guy is blowing his stack. Aren't there 2 Swadmores or something?
I don't know, maybe.
I think there are.
No, it's called Cedar Palace.
No. Sharia Resin?
Cedar Bridge.
Oh, haha.
And the whole neighborhood is owned by Cedar Holdings. Is this it?
Looks like it could be, but it's not. Oh, maybe this. outside. Wait, I'm of a story.
Here, Cedar Palace entrance.
Oh.
Hello, we essentially have to try today.
Kaste Habore, Bikura.
Oh, all the who's who of like Rosh Hashanah is going to be.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's going to be handling Shabbat.
Well, I hope you know how to handle it. Where do you think you're going?
Oh, here's what's his name?
Who?
That guy.
Who was that?
Hofstadter's son-in-law who runs that night call. What's his name? Remember you used to go to that night call?
Yeah.
Where they shot it to keep it.
Yeah, and when we were in Whitesville.
No, so what's his name? Okay.
I don't think I ever knew his name.
It's gigantic, ginormous parking lot.
Well, was there a chashuva? Was that?
Situation. It's filled to overflowing. Great cars. Still hung out and gas though.
Yeah, anyway, so Emil was telling me about this guy and his school of 600 people, town of 600 people.
No, that's
So what? So his dad was in the military? His mom, his aunt, his uncle? You didn't ask him?
No story.
You didn't ask him anything? So what's his whatever? Like the other guy was trying to mold you into a, I don't know, what's this guy's...
No, it didn't seem to be a major bullshit. Just trying to run his... Lots of familiar parking here.
No. I think you should go back the way we...
Well, I know. I'm running a rim here like a nut. Everybody's parking nowhere.
Only the chashuvim get to park here.
Like the military where all the spots close to the building are reserved for 06.
What are you?
3.
Hey.
No, there's everything's reserved for 06 unless it says the parking spots are reserved for 06, right? What about 07?
What's 07? Colonel?
General. 06 is Colonel. 07 there's no parking spots reserved.
Because he has a driver.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't drive himself. He doesn't have to drive. He has a guy who comes and waits for him. Hey, we're about to do the car rein.
Yes. A water. Whoa, hello, this thing is going. It was on 10 minutes.